I'm Executive Dating Strategist Arnitris L. Strong, and this is Executive Lessons in Love. This episode explores the quiet shifts that shape how we lead and how we live. Executive coach and attorney Lani joins us for a conversation on discernment, self trust, and the transition from proving your worth to owning it. Together, we explore what it means to lead with clarity, protect your energy, and stay grounded when the stakes are high. This is a conversation about alignment, intention, and the confidence that comes from knowing yourself.
And watch your relationship finally grow. You've been the expert all along, just needed someone to show you where you belong. Executive lessons, lessons in love.
Welcome back to Executive Lessons in Love. And tonight I am joined with Lani Shaw, Executive Coach Lani Shaw. So, Lani, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me. Excited for this discussion.
I did a little research on you, and what I found was that people often describe your leadership style as polished, intentional, and grounded. And usually, that kind of presence usually isn't accidental. So, what did you have to grow into to arrive there?
You know what? I had to grow into that leadership style. I've been an attorney for 20 years and, working in a larger organization. I have really worked at being grounded, being calm, being a polished leader. I participated in an executive leadership program that gave me an opportunity as well to work on different leadership competencies. And so now what you see is what you get.
What I'm hearing is that you were very intentional about the way that you wanted to present yourself.
That is very true. I have been very intentional in sort of, my branding, visibility, my leadership presence, and it has taken years to develop, but, I think it's a very worthwhile process.
Absolutely. So, you talked about how much weight you place on who you serve and on who you don't. And that level of clarity usually comes from experience. What did it take for you to really trust your own judgment there?
I came to coaching because I had been coached before. And so when I thought about who my ideal client was, it really was myself because I knew the issues that I had been coached through. I knew the process that it took me to get from, feeling stuck and burnout to that next level. And so that was something that really resonated with me in terms of who I wanted to serve. And I serve a community of women who feel stuck in their career, but are still very much goal oriented and ready to move to their next performance level and ready to move into a promotion. And so that is what I really focus on.
Absolutely. I can see with your audience seems to be pretty carefully curated and they resonate. You're speaking their language for sure. Seem to resonate with all of your posts and everything. So it looks like the work that you put in is really paying off. You shared that you're in a season of moving from proving your value to owning it. And that's not a small shift. What told you it was time?
Well, it really has been a matter of knowing what I've accomplished and honoring that. And of course, there's always more that you can do. There's always more that can be on your to do list or your goal list of things that you want to do in the future. But at some point, do we ever stop and say, wow, I've accomplished this and I've accomplished that? Let me sit in gratitude. Let me honor that. Let me see how, I'm showing up every day. And, the rat race will tell us to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep thinking about the next big thing, the next shiny object, but I really wanted to be intentional about focusing on sort of, how I show up today and honoring that the way that I'm showing up.
Yeah, that seems to be a common thread with all of these conversations that I'm having with women is that whenever we achieve one goal, we're immediately on to the next one, and we don't take the time to celebrate ourselves nearly as much as we should. And for me, one of the things that I've started to do is that when I set a goal, I go ahead and decide how I'm going to celebrate when I reach that goal. And then that makes it easier. That kind of takes the pressure off. And I know for me, it's so easy to just keep running. Like you said, that rat race, keep running and running for the next big thing. And it's important to take time to celebrate yourself, the goals that you already achieved. So yeah, that's a common thread with every conversation. You
No, but
like
I
that
like that
family
you said that
celebration?
you'll go ahead
Yeah.
and figure out how you're gonna celebrate. That's beautiful. That makes you enjoy the process even more, I
It
think.
absolutely does because it gives me something to strive toward. As your leadership has matured, has success started to look different than it used to?
It has, because I honor my personal life. I honor and I cherish the time that I have with family. I cherish the time that I have with friends and significant others. And I also honor rest. I was on a rest panel last year thinking about how rest really is a leadership strategy, because when you have an opportunity to rest, then that's when your ideas can flourish and can take shape. And I try to honor that time, my time away, because it really makes a difference in how I'm able to show up each and every day.
It absolutely does. I know for me, some of the best programs or offerings that I've come up with, frameworks, have come after a time of rest. You know, because sometimes you do all that you can do in your humanness. And I was at a point where I was just really pushing my body to the point of almost exhaustion, where I was if I didn't take the time to rest, I know that the next thing would be that I would probably be sick. But when I took that time to rest, some of my best programs came out of that time. So I love the fact that you're really intentional about the rest because we're intentional about everything else. And I think that we're just starting to make sure that we are intentional about the rest as well. It's just as important as the other. You said that
Yes,
you
it's
are
important.
intentional about your time that you're focusing on your craft, the time that you dedicate to your work, and then also your significant others and family and friends, those people that are important to you. What doesn't fit anymore?
Doesn't fit. Oh my gosh. I did a little purge of my friends list.
Yeah, that's another
I
common
did a little
thread.
purge because, yeah, because, you know, when you embark on something new, coaching was a new endeavor for me last year that was very time consuming as I went through the courses, got certified, taking on new clients, focus on the business development. I don't know if everybody was happy for it. And, that makes you a little bit more intentional about how you're spending your time, because if certain people are going to be naysayers or don't see the dream the way that you see it, if they're not supportive, you gotta just find your people. And so I'm very intentional on filling my life with positive things, prayer, meditation, working out is important to me, my family, the people that support me, the things that matter to me. That's how I'm gonna spend my time. And so the other stuff that's negative or anybody that's gonna question my value or how I show up, I just don't have time for it.
This really is a conversation that we need to have more with people when they start entrepreneurship or some other big goal that they need to understand that their circle is likely going to change. I know for me, I had a period of I felt like I was grieving a death. I was in a mourning from some of the relationships that I had come to depend on. And now that I was maturing and really starting to go after my goals, those relationships kind of shifted. Like you said, the naysayers and the people that don't understand that you can't be on the phone for 4 hours at a time now because you have to dedicate time to your projects or to your clients. And it was sad for me to have to release some of those relationships. Did you feel that you had to mourn some relationships as well, or an easy break for you?
So, I don't do a lot of mourning. I do a lot of celebrating because I'm always thankful when God brings me in a position to reveal something to me that is going to matter or make a difference. And so, not that a relationship or a friendship has to end forever. It could just be this is not a time for me right now to have that relationship in my life. That does not mean that, if people were to need you in the future, you don't show up for them, or that does not mean that, you're mean or not cordial to them when you see them. It just means that for now, that is not my focus. And so I don't really see it as a death. Or a mourning. I just really see it as a transfer of energy in terms of where I will spend my time, how I will, honor the things that need to be in my life. And I talk to my clients often about doing energy audits. That is where you figure out where you are being drained by certain activities and you work really hard to minimize those activities or to move them out of your life. Because energy, shifts, it can go up and down. It can be, you can be low energy or whatnot. But if you really want to achieve your goals, you have to do proper energy management.
That's an interesting way to look at it. I like that. I think I'm just sentimental. I guess, I'm always in my feelings. So yeah, I understand. But I like that perspective, definitely. When things get when things get tense or the
Okay.
stakes are high, you tend to stay calm and strategic. And that's not everyone's default. What helped you build that steadiness over time?
It really has been coaching. I've been coached myself. And in coaching, we talk a lot about if you're reacting or if you're responding. And, sometimes when you are reacting, there's a lot of emotion built into that. But a response can be a little bit more thoughtful and planned out. And will always honor my feelings. I will always honor my emotions, but I recognize that not everybody deserves the benefit of knowing how I feel in the moment. And so instead of reacting to something, I try to shift that into a proper response.
Everyone deserves to know how you feel in the moment. I like that. I really do. That's very interesting that you put it that way, but you're absolutely right. And I think that sometimes, especially as adults, I had a situation earlier today and I'm like, oh my God, this person just does not know how to manage their emotions. And it's difficult sometimes to kind of try to tiptoe around the situation or orchestrate the situation because they're upset in the moment, then they don't know how to articulate that they're upset, and maybe they're upset about something that has nothing to do with you, but you are the target at that moment. I had to contact a customer and give them some information that they were not happy about, and I was called stupid. I was told I was lying. I was, oh my gosh, this is an interesting way to handle this situation, and it's not the way to get
Yeah.
what you need in the moment. I understand you're frustrated, this is a bill that you weren't anticipating and you're not getting the response that you wanted, but that's not an excuse to just fly off the hinges and just go off. And I asked her to lower her voice. Please don't yell at me. I'm trying to help you. Let's work together for a solution. And she said something that was so interesting to me. She said, I shouldn't have to apologize for being upset. And I said, "No, you don't have to apologize for being upset. Those are very healthy human emotions. But because you're upset, that
Hmm.
doesn't give you license to act the way that you have been acting. You're screaming at me. You call me stupid and a liar." She couldn't get it. She really didn't understand why she wasn't able to just call me names or whatever. It's interesting that you put it that way. I think I'm gonna kind of tuck that back into my memory bank. Not everyone deserves to know how I feel in the moment. I love that. When the pressure is real and the outcome matters, what do you come back to internally to stay grounded?
That's a really good question. You know what? It's always my values because I was raised a certain way with various values that are very important to me, and I also have continue to honor those. And I also think to the fact that I care deeply about my religion and the person that I show up in terms of my relationship with Christ, with God. And so, when things get tough, that's what I lean on. That's what makes me grounded. That makes me say, okay, well, you handled XYZ. So this is just an extension of that. Girl, go do it. I'm always thinking, I'm constantly giving myself pep talks. One of the things that you'll see me often say when I speak is I'm going to always bet on myself because I don't know anybody else's work ethic, but I do know mine. And so If to choose who's gonna come through a fire, I'm gonna choose myself. That is how I tend to internalize things and think about this is how you push through, this is how you get through something. But of course, every time you're not having a grounded, calm moment. And that is okay because, in those moments, you give yourself a little bit of grace and you keep on moving, you dust yourself off. But 9 times out of 10, I try to show up the same way.
That level of self-awareness is refreshing to hear, because I don't think that everyone thinks about it that way. I think that a lot of times I think that the way that the lady that I was talking to earlier expressed that she shouldn't have to apologize for being angry. I think a lot of people think that way, and they feel like, I'm angry, so I'm justified in doing whatever it is that I wanna do because I'm angry, but that's not how the world works, not unless you're a toddler, man, before you're learning how to really
Yeah.
manage your emotions. I want to shift gears for a moment, not away from insight, but into something a little bit lighter, because I want to see how you think about things in real time. And we're going to do a quick game, and it's called Executive Instinct. Here's how it works. I'm going to give you a phrase and you're going to give me a sentence. I'm not going to give you any context, just your first instinct. You ready?
Let's play Executive Instinct.
I'm ready.
The best decision I almost didn't make.
The best decision that I almost didn't make was when I was not sure if I was going to be a coach. Decision I'm very happy that I made.
Absolutely. The decision I waited too long to make.
My current relationship.
The hardest thing to stop doing.
Shopping.
The most overrated leadership advice.
Most overrated leadership advice would be to not be assertive, to not speak up for yourself.
What I protect now without apology.
My time, my calendar.
Something I no longer feel the need to explain.
Why I started a business.
The pressure I finally put down.
What other people think of me.
A habit I thought was discipline but wasn't.
That is a really good one. I think you stopped me. But
You want to pass?
I'm gonna pass because I don't know the answer to that one.
Okay. The moment I realized I didn't need to prove anything.
When I turned 40, and as my mama said, you're gonna come into your own and live the life you want to live.
What matters far less to me now.
What matters far less to me now? I don't know anything that does not matter to me.
You don't need to prove your value. You need to own it. Coaching with Lani.
Well, what I love about that is how quickly your clarity shows up, even without thinking. I want to come back to that idea of clarity because it didn't come overnight. What role has stillness played in some of your most important decisions?
I am an analyzer. A natural analyzer, and that's probably because, I'm a trained attorney. So we're gonna take an issue, we're gonna flip it on 12 sides and figure it out, right? So that's kinda how I come to any decision making, but there is a stillness in that because there's a level of preparation that kinda calms you, and I think that will always stay with me, through any pivot, through any career change. I will always honor that.
At what point did you stop explaining your decisions and start standing in them?
I always stand in my decisions, but I will discuss them with people that matter to me. So it is always a decision to me of, should I have to have this conversation? And if I don't think I need to have it with that particular person, I won't. But if it's a person that is deep to, that I care dearly about, I will have and honor that with them to have that moment.
Absolutely. One of my former mentors told me that you weigh the opinions of people by how much you respect them in other areas. So you wouldn't accept an opinion about an area of your life that they really don't have privy to. And that's something that
Mhm.
I always come back to. If I don't value the way that you're living your life or the way that you're treating your loved ones, and why would I value your opinion about the way that I'm treating mine? I think that little tidbit kind of freed me up a little bit because I used to think a lot about what people thought about things. And I think right around that 40 age, like you said, when you turn 40, I was like, no, this is my life. I'm gonna live it the way I want to live it. And I don't care who doesn't like it. Well, not so much I don't care who doesn't like it, but there are a core set of people, like you said, that I value their opinion and I may run it by them, but of course I'm still have the final say about it. Looking at where you are now, what do you trust about yourself that you didn't always trust before?
Absolutely trust my decision-making ability. I know myself so well. I know, that I have the ability to make decisions that matter in my life and that I have my best interests at heart. And I know how calculated my decisions are in terms of being, prayerful, as we talked about, talking to the people that matter to you, because, what they will say will, can influence or give you additional perspective. And so, they'll say no man is an island, no woman is an island. And I truly believe that. So I don't make decisions in a vacuum, but I feel very comfortable with my ability to make them as it relates to my life.
Well, Lainey, thank you for bringing your clarity, your honesty, and your presence into this space. As we get ready to close, will you tell the people how they can find you, what you're working on, how they can follow you, what services you offer?
Wonderful. So, as I indicated, I am a trained attorney. I still practice, but I'm here today because I'm an executive coach. I focus on career coaching, and you can visit my website, coachingwithlany.com, for more information or to send me a message about my services. Or you can also follow me on YouTube. A very active YouTube channel where I share tips to help you level up with clarity and confidence. Is Level Up with Coach Laney, and I would, welcome any opportunity to help you as you are gaining clarity in your life, or if there are certain goals that you want to meet. So happy to discuss further.
Again, thank you, Lainey, for joining me. If you are looking for some career advice, and I think that a lot of Black women are probably looking for some career advice in this current economy. So you follow Lainey and get some tidbits and check her out, see what she can do to help you up level your career.
There was a precision to the way Lani talked about her life, not rigid, just intentional. She spoke about time and energy the way strong leaders talk about resources, something you account for, something you protect, something you allocate with care. And it made me think about how rarely we apply that same level of thoughtfulness to love. In business, growth isn't just about opportunity. It's about whether there's enough support to sustain what's expanding. The same is true in relationships. When there isn't enough room, emotionally, mentally, or practically, even strong connections start to feel strained. Not because the intention is wrong, but because the structure can't carry the weight. Over time, people don't leave because they stopped caring. They leave because they're tired. Love can only grow as large as the capacity supporting it. One of the things she said with certainty was how deeply she trusts her own decision making. That kind of confidence doesn't come from always being right. It comes from knowing your patterns well enough to recognize what aligns and what doesn't. In relationships, that same clarity changes how we choose, how we stay, and how we respond when things feel uncertain. You stop outsourcing your judgment, and the connection becomes steadier because of it. Self awareness is what allows trust to remain steady. She also talked about rest as something necessary for creativity and clear thinking. And it reminded me that the healthiest systems, whether teams or relationships, aren't built on constant output. They're built with space. Without pauses, even strong partnerships can start to feel crowded. But when there's room to reset, patience returns and perspective widens. Sustainability isn't accidental, it's designed. Sustainability requires space, not constant effort. What stayed with me most is how intentionality shows up quietly, not just in how we work, but in how we love.